Hello and welcome to the UCAN Global Running Day Summit. I'm Carrie Tollefson, and I am super excited to be surrounded by these amazing coaches. We're bringing you on the expert coach panel today, Amy Yoder-Begley and Andrew Begley from Atlanta Track Club. Can you guys wave? Yay! We also have Greg McMillan of McMillan Running. Hey, Greg. And we have Pete Ray with ZAP Endurance. Pete, give a little shout out. Yay. So you guys, we're in a major pandemic right now, and our country is on, kind of alert everywhere, right? I mean, we have a lot of unrest going on. I'm in Minnesota. I haven't run in 4 days. My heart is really heavy. It's a really troubling time, yet a time where we can see a lot of change, hopefully, and a lot of good moving forward. So I'm just going to open it up for you guys and kind of let us know where you're at, how you're doing, how your teams are doing, your athletes, your members, all of that. And, just open it up that way. Okay. So why don't we start with you, Andrew and Amy?
I know that with all the cancellations, it's getting harder and harder for, not only our team, but our participants and our members. We used to have, all-comers track meets every Tuesday, and that's been going on probably longer than anybody can remember for Atlanta Track Club. So, like everything else, this is the first time that things have been canceled in a long time. But I think everyone's pivoting and doing the best they can and staying motivated. And as we all know, running is one of the best ways for people to get out and get kind of the energy out and get their endorphins up and get in a better mood. So we're at least lucky that we all have that we can do.
Andrew, how you doing?
I deal more with just the elite side of our club, because we have a unique situation where we have kind of all aspects of the runner life cycle. And I mostly deal with the elites, and that goes all the way from little kids all the way up to our masters athletes. They're still training. I think everyone deals with it a little differently. Some of them really struggle without having that calendar in front of them with races to think about. So they're more just kind of in base building mode. Some of them are raring and ready to go for that first competition, hopefully right around the bend here. So everyone's just kind of in different places. We have everything from people just out there running every day to really training hard. But I think the one unifying concept is that they're all out there running, because that's what Atlanta Track Club's all about.
Yeah. Greg, Pete?
Yeah, same. I feel like runners are just making adjustments. I mean, one of the things that we do, right, is we endure and we figure out a way to get things done. So as Andrew mentioned, I think everybody's had a slightly different path and way that they've dealt with it. But luckily running is, we don't require a special facility or things that we can't get to. We're just so lucky that we can bend down, lace them up, and go outside. So lots of adjustments, of course, and some challenging situations for people, but on the whole, just, I think, feeling very grateful that we can still get out there. And I think there'll be some silver linings coming from it for a lot of runners over time. So I think as all of us as runners, we're kind of naturally hopeful and grateful we can get out and do our runs and sort of looking forward to the future.
For sure. Pete, how are you guys?
I'd say we're doing as well as can be expected. Of the 10 athletes on our resident team, ours is a bit of a unique scenario in that they actually live at a center. And we're in a pretty remote area. So in terms of running, there's lots of places that the athletes can run where they're just all by themselves on a dirt road. And amidst these issues, we're very fortunate in that sense. But I'm not going to candy coat it. A bit of sad times too. I mean, we've canceled our adult camps and our high school teams and college teams and running clubs and all the retreats and groups that come to ZAP. We're not doing any of those this year, and so for a lot of folks, that's tough. That's what our summers are all about. So we're a little sad too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said unique, and that's kind of what my first question is for you, Pete. This is a unique time. Lots of different things are happening right now, but with the races potentially being months away, maybe even a year away,
yep.
How do you kind of shift your mindset, not only with your elite athletes, but all the athletes that you guys coach at ZAP? you coach people from all over the world, and they come in to meet you at your camps or at your events, but you're also in contact with them year round. So how do you kind of shift that mindset, not just the training, but the mindset to be able to focus and to stay on a plan or to shift that plan?
Right. And again, I'm sure each of the coaches here has a bit of a different take on this. And I do want to say to Greg and to you, Carrie, we're going to be sad not to see you on campus this summer as guest speakers. But, we work with a sports psychologist over the years, a guy by the name of Dr. Robert Swope, and he's up in Asheville, North Carolina. And he talks about two types of goals. And the first is one that we all know about, which is outcome goals. I want to run this fast. I want to place this high. But he also talks a lot about process goals, and the process goals are ones that we all can control. Well, for the most part, I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep each night. I'm going to consume 70 to 80 ounces of fluid each day. I'm going to eat smaller, more manageable meals throughout the day, which is, as we all know, is good for metabolic rate. And I was talking to him recently, and he said, this is a really good time for people to work on their process goals, the ones that you can open up your book and hit the checkbox on each of those each day. The outcome goals in Western culture, we're all about outcome goals, but the process ones are the ones that tend to go by the wayside a bit. So for everyone, the ZAP resident athletes, the campers, the people we see throughout the year, we're trying to encourage them to focus more on their process goals and doing the things that if you check all those boxes, the outcome goals are more likely to happen. And I guess the other thing is, Garmin's one of our sponsors, so they might hit me over the head with a bat for saying this, but I'm a little old school. I'm looking at Rod Dixon over Greg's shoulder there, and Steve Jones over the other shoulder, and we have a lot of those sort of old school 70s and 80s generation people who speak at ZAP. And the one thing that comes up over and over and over again with them is, as a running culture, we've gotten so knee deep in the weeds on, we have to know every single run, just how fast it is and how many feet of elevation we did and how it's got to be so designed at every run. And then we're linking to sites where people can see every step we ever did. I think this is a good time to frankly get away from that a little bit and just go out for a run. And you might not know how far you went. Don't wear a watch, just go run that loop and run on feel, and maybe go for more runs for the real reason that we all started running, which is that simple childlike joy of running.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, I think, Greg, with all the coaches that you coach, there is, as a coach, and I have a number of coaches too, people are overwhelmed right now. And usually when we go out for a run, it's our release, it's our fun, it's our happy hour. We get to run with other people. And, for me, I have all these little kids, and it's kind of my social hour. It's my happy hour, I call it. A lot of people are thinking that this is an opportunity to be a runner, to become a runner, also to get some more fitness, but it's also a time that's really overwhelming. So what are you talking to your athletes about? How do we kind of control that overwhelming, feeling that we get with the world right now, but also being able to enjoy our run even when times are heavy and a little bit scary?
Well, I think Pete described it perfectly. It is, you have to change your goals. You have to refocus on something that you can work on right now. And we see people doing three things that I think is really going to help them long term. Number one, they're learning how to be motivated even when they don't have this big goal, right? And so getting more to that internal motivation of, I run because it makes me feel better, because it's my happy hour, because of all the benefits that we get from it. And so I think a lot of people that really externally focus with having to have a race on the calendar, et cetera, they're learning tricks to be able to stay internally motivated, to get it done because they know it's what they should do and it makes them feel better. Secondly, they're able to work on some of the stuff that before they weren't able to work on because they were always getting ready for a race. So now for a lot of athletes, it's like the first time maybe they've ever had this time to be like, wow, maybe I'll build a bigger base, or maybe I'll start doing some lunges or whatever they wanted to do that they were never able to do because they had this big race coming up. They're able to kind of work on their bodies and some of the other things that they didn't do before. Maybe I want to improve hill running. So, all right, well, let's do a segment of hills. Why not? We can do that. So taking the opportunity, seeing it as an opportunity of, oh, I can build qualities in myself that then I didn't have. I can bring that into my next training cycle. And the third thing, in fact, I just shot a video for my athletes on it this morning because I was reminded yesterday, is your ability to perform well by yourself. And that's something, and Pete kind of alluded to it, you gotta, I think one of the things of being a great runner and certainly a better racer is your ability to perform well when you're by yourself, when you're having to push through those workouts, when you don't have your training partners around, or doing time trials or virtual races or solo efforts that so many runners have never done before. And I related the story of Dina Castor and Joe Vigil when he would send her off on the run, and then a few minutes later he'd send the guys team behind her, and of course he'd tell her, don't let them catch you, you gotta beat them. And of course he'd tell the guys, don't let her beat you, you gotta catch her. So he was using that as an opportunity to train her to be able to perform her best by herself. And obviously when you're at that level, like Amy, you're an Olympian, you need to be able to perform really well by yourself. I think a lot of us we don't develop that enough. And this is a great opportunity to work on strategies and tricks that you can use to get the most out of yourself. So I'm really encouraging the athletes that are out there training and they're still motivated. Okay, let's see this as, even though your times may not be as fast, because obviously with crowd support and competitors, you can run a bit faster, but maybe there's some mental part that's coming from this that's going to be the real key. When you do get back in environments, you'll be able to get more out of yourself, no matter if you get in that gap in a race where oftentimes you can lose focus. So I see those three things as something I'm trying to help people maybe move toward and see as, wow, this is a great opportunity for me. Yes, I miss getting together with my friends. I miss the races, all of these things, but boy, do I have an opportunity here I've never had before, and can I develop something that long-term could be really, really valuable for me?
Mm-hmm. Not to mention some soul searching at the same time while we're out on the run, right?
Sure.
Well, Amy and Andrew, you guys coach 34,000 people. When you really look at how many people are members of the Atlanta Track Club, and you coach everyone from newbies all the way up to the elites. And I think it was interesting, before we started recording, we kind of were just catching up, and I'd like to kind of split you two up there, even though you are married and you're in different spots right now because you're visiting family, and then Andrew's back in Atlanta. But Amy, I'd like to talk about how you said you're supposed to be starting, meeting up with your team now, because we're lessening the restrictions on that. And also, Andrew, I'll come to you, but I want to hear about what it's like in Atlanta, and with all of these people that live in Atlanta, how you're kind of encouraging them to keep running through this time. So let's start with you, Amy. Talk about your elites and, how you're handling that, and how you guys are getting back to hopefully a new normal and, moving forward.
Yeah, we got really lucky that really the last big running event was the Olympic trials. And shortly after that, we had to pretty much quit meeting with our team. I had a bunch of in-training programs that were starting, and, everybody had to pivot to online. All of my, Greg, I'll tell you what, pivoting all of my in-person to online, that was a really rough 3 or 4 weeks. I'm just going to tell you right now, making that pivot to doing everything online. I'm not used to it. We're used to these face-to-face 2 to 3 times a week with hundreds and hundreds of participants. And now doing it online for all of them has been interesting. And then switching our elites to online, we've been doing Zoom stretching and Zoom lifting. It's been interesting, and trying to keep people engaged and changing it up and trying to make sure that they stay with it. As you know, 3 to 4 weeks into any program, people start losing interest and losing motivation. So, we just were at that not too long ago with a couple of our programs, and trying to keep people, setting new goals, setting new motivations for themselves has been a real challenge, trying to get them to do it, and having people learn to do it by themselves. Because our in-training programs, it's every Wednesday and Saturday of hundreds of people getting together running. And obviously now they have to go out the door and find their own way to do it. They have to find their own courses and their own hydration and things like that. So that's been interesting, teaching people how to do it on their own, right? Instead of just relying on us. And the elites, the same thing. They've been used to doing it together with their group. And now, the athletes will say, oh, it was so much harder by myself. And but they're learning, and I think mentally it's going to be better for them down the road. But it's definitely been an interesting challenge.
Yeah. Andrew, you guys had a lot happen in the last couple days in Atlanta. And I'm sure for so many of us, like I've said over and over, getting outside to go for a run is sort of our therapy. It's our, you know, our joy in life. And it's been really hard to sometimes justify going for a run when we are in, you know, such unrest and, you know, kind of trouble right now. So when you have all of these athletes that you and Amy coach, and they're coming to you guys for advice, for motivation, for, you know, inspiration, and yet we have so much going on, how are you guys dealing with all of those members of the Atlanta Track Club? And are you suggesting to still get out the door and to still, you know, find that joy in life?
Yeah, we kind of, you know, we've tried to use kind of the same strategy that Greg's using, and really try to take this opportunity to take a step back and better ourselves, not just as individuals, but as an organization. So, you know, we've been lucky on our elite side in that most of them in the last year have moved close to the Chattahoochee River, where there's a great place to run. And it got closed down for people driving there, but they could just run in. So that was great. Most of them didn't have to change. For a lot of our members, it's really been helping them to learn how to use resources, their GPS watches and Google Maps and whatnot, to find new places to run, because all of our parks got shut down for a while. So that was a new challenge. But as a track club as a whole, we really tried to shift, as Amy said, to more online resources, because we don't have that face-to-face interaction with our members right now. So one of the big things that we've done that I wanted to do for 4 or 5 years, so it's great that we've been able to do it, is we started this new online platform called The Distance, where we give our members an opportunity to work out with Amy doing a strength routine, or we have a world-class former hurdler on our staff that's teaching them how to do some strength training, and we have a former Olympian in the steeple that does drills. So we've been able to do all these different things to give people that sense of belonging. And then the other cool part about that is I've been writing workouts for our 34,000 members. So even though they're not signed up for our programs, we try to give them different levels of workouts to do each week. Not really, we know that we can't coach each of them, but kind of giving them some of the favorite workouts that our athletes do. And maybe they go out there and try something new to kind of keep it fresh and give them something to look forward to each week.
Mm-hmm. Amy, you know, you and I are the same age. And I've been doing a lot of Zoom strength workouts for people that I coach as well. And I'm getting sore all the time. I don't know about you, but if you have 34,000 people watching you, I'm sure you're doing a lot. So how sore are you right now?
Well, I went from just watching the athletes in our weight room to doing about 6 per week. And I think it was week 3 that I hurt my back. So I went from 0 to 6. But I will tell you, I am probably fitter now than I've been in the last 15 years. Just from doing it. And, you know, and it's, the funny part is, even in the weight room, when we've been working out, the athletes can't do things. But now when I've taken, like Greg said, we've taken huge steps back to go back to all these things that I've been wanting to do with the athletes for so long. I've been wanting to just go back to basics and, you know, let's start from the ground up, and let's try to work on things that I've never been able to do with them. And finding the weaknesses in each of my athletes has been really interesting. And the soreness that they get from things that I think they shouldn't have gotten sore from doing has been really eye-opening. And so we've really taken the last 3 months to step back and try to find all those things. And I've gotten sore along right with them. I'll be real honest about that.
I know, we can feel our age a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and we have to do all that. Okay, so Greg, quick question here. What tips are you giving your athletes to stay motivated? Are you encouraging them to do those virtual runs? And we're going to get into that because I know Atlanta Track Club is hosting a lot of them, or has hosted some. But are you encouraging people to do other things besides these, these virtual runs?
Absolutely. Whatever you need to do to stay motivated. We talk a lot about finding that motivation, right? Particularly if they are the type of runner that is very externally focused or outcome focused, like Pete was talking about. So really trying to help those athletes pivot toward what's important, right? So, and I just had it myself where I was 2 minutes into a run and I stopped and I was like, oh, I feel terrible. I turned around, I was going to go back. And I said, wait a minute, running makes me feel better. I have a family that they like me around more when I'm running because I'm not as grumpy. All these things so I came back to that internal of like, I'm not injured. I'm just, unmotivated. Just keep going, just get out the door, just keep. And then I had a great run, of course, which is what most of us find. So really helping athletes try to focus more on that internal of why they want to go for that run, why they should go for that run. And we understand that the external may not be there quite as strongly as it will be in the future, but really helping them dial that in. I think most of us, if we come back to that, we'll get out the door. Right.
Exactly.
We can definitely live and kind of stew in our, have a pity party. But if we come down to the basics, we run because it makes us feel better. It makes our lives better. We handle stress better. We're better parents and husbands, wives, partners, whatever. So I've really been focusing particularly on those athletes that I sense are really struggling when they don't have the external. They don't have the race goal, or they can't meet up with their friends, those kinds of things. Let's focus on why are you doing this in the beginning, and sometimes just trying to overwhelm that loss of motivation with discipline. Start a streak. Let's see. Okay, I want to run 4 days this week. Okay, let's get 4 in. Doesn't matter how you do it, just get out the door 4 times. That's all we care about. Pace, we don't care. Get out 4. Okay, now let's stack another week on that. Can we get a second week? Let's start a streak of great weeks. So shifting their focus to something that's more tangible, you just do all those tricks to help people keep getting out the door. But luckily, as we've talked about, running's so accessible that if they can just, how it is, lace them up, and opening that door is kind of the biggest challenge a lot of times, but getting out there and doing it. So a little bit more of that readjustment and sort of finding that internal motivation.
So when I am running these days, I sleep in my running clothes a lot. Which some people think it's crazy, but I do, because I have to get up so early now to get going before my husband goes to work. So you say just lace them up. That's one of my favorite tips. If I have to, I'll walk around. Yes, I will walk around in my house with my shoes. I know a lot of people think, no, you should do that. But I'm telling you, when you need that motivation, put those shoes on and walk around for a little bit, empty the dishwasher, put a load of laundry in. By the time you really think about it, you'll get out the door. Or if you really want to try the Carrie special, it's wear your clothes to bed. My husband doesn't always love it, but it's so easy. I get up, brush my teeth, throw my shoes on, and head out the door. And especially now that it's, nice and warm and we're ready to go. But Pete, question for you now. We heard Greg say streak, and my long run challenge. I talk about it at camp. I love starting at 10 miles. I go to 20 miles. So every week I add 1 mile, and we're doing it now with UCAN. We're starting it on June 6th. So anyone at UCAN watching, or anyone that loves UCAN that's watching all of us right here, you can start a streak, like Greg said.
It's the D-Day launch.
Yeah, exactly. But the long run challenge is fun. We have 3 different levels. And, things like that, just those challenges, those streaks, those kind of ideas are, fun for people to do. And, I think that you and I really appreciate the long run. You do a lot of things within the long run. You do a lot of different workouts, different mini tempos, break it up that way. Talk about the long run. And maybe some people don't quite understand that the long run really is a good thing for us to do. It helps us build our overall fitness so fast.
Yeah. Again, I've said this before, but we've been so lucky to have so many great guest speakers such as yourself and, of course, Amy here and over the years at our camps. But again, a lot of the marathoners of that heyday of American marathoning from the mid-'70s to the mid-'80s, we've had a lot of those people come as speakers, like Bill Rogers, who comes each year, and every last one of them talks about the power of the long run. It obviously strengthens cardiac tissue and expands capillary beds, which helps with oxygen to working muscles. I mean, I'm not the exercise scientist like Greg is, but the science behind the long run is vast, but it really blows your mind. I mean, even the recent science, and maybe Greg can speak to this, about the recruitment of fast twitch muscle fiber at the tail end of long runs. So the right kind of long run can actually work the same type of muscle fiber you might be working if you were doing a harder, faster interval workout. So the long run can do a lot, and it really can put the competitiveness into an athlete. And for distance runners, and most people watching this are long distance runners, you can do a ton within a long run. We are huge fans of doing what we call Squires surges. I mean, I think he still might be the best marathon coach in U.S. history, Bill Squires, and he's in his mid 80s, and he coached Dick Beardsley and Bill Rogers and so many others. And if you ran a long run and you were coached by Squires, you never ran one pace. You were always doing surges within your long runs. You were doing 1-minute pickups and 2-minute pickups and 3-minute pickups and sometimes 15-minute pickups in your long runs. And next thing you knew, you finished your long run and you had done an interval workout, a hill workout, a tempo run, all within a long run. So long runs are, from my perspective, as important as any other type of run that you would do within a training block or even a given week.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Amy, you know, you have had some pretty famous coaches in the past and you've learned a lot, obviously. What would you tell someone besides the long run? You know, if we're sort of trying to help people build a plan on their own, you know, we can't work out every single day. The best part about being a distance runner is you have to have those ebbs and flows. We need recovery days. We need days off. Those are like my favorite things to do. But I also love a good workout and I love a good long run. So what kind of advice would you give someone if they were to do one workout a week plus that long run? What's your favorite?
The favorite workout?
Yeah.
Oh, for me,
There's been so many.
I know. You know, Andrew has different ones for the marathoners that, you know, that he does if, you know, but training the mid D or 5K, 10Ks. I mean, we like things like the mile down. People that maybe can't, you know, go out and measure something. Let's say, you know, they don't want to measure anything. You know, another one that you could do is just hill repeats for a certain amount of time. And that's one thing I've given to my participants lately is just go and find a hill near your house. And for 20, 30 minutes, see how many times you can, you know, run up and down it. And then next week, let's maybe see if you can add one more, you know, and then in a couple weeks, let's try and do a different amount of time up and down the hill. So maybe it's not something that it's measured for them, but it's a goal that each week they can try to get a little bit better, a little bit faster, see how strong they're getting. So for my participants, that's what we've added lately. For our elites, you know, I'm a big fan of, you know, of ladders for those guys. And then Andrew has some different ones for the marathoners, but that's my go-to right now.
Well, I love that 20 to 30 minutes of hills and see how many you can get in. Any level of runner can do that, whether you're starting or you're somebody that's trying to make the Olympic team. That's Yep.
And even the walkers. I mean, for them, you know, we focus on form and getting up and down and making sure that that they're really focused on that. So it's a workout that any level can do.
Yeah, Andrew. Lots of virtual races going on. I want to talk to you about that. You know, talking about how to measure your own course or figure out your own course. There's no, you know, drinking fountains available for anybody right now. And you guys being in Atlanta, super hot and humid, even more so than we are here in Minnesota. Yes, it gets hot and humid here in Minnesota. But just talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people that are new to the sport, and actually people like me who have really never done virtual races until the last couple years, we got to sort of do this on our own. So what would you recommend people do?
Yeah, I mean, you can be like Amy, who did a virtual race, and she chose an all downhill course.
Yes.
Make her time faster. So that's one strategy. I think you have to just prepare a little better. You have to mark out your course ahead of time so you kind of know where you're going to run. Maybe stash some water or some other type of drink in the bushes somewhere so that you can get a drink if you need to. But I think there's a lot of different things going on. Our masters team competed with the Garden State Track Club in a virtual competition. They had a week to go out and get their run in, and they were doing the same thing as Amy. They were finding like the best downhill courses and trying to strategize, like running in, you know, the little groups to try to hit faster times. And it was a lot of strategy. But I think the big thing is just making sure you plot out your course, maybe run it easy ahead of time so you know, is there a stoplight that's going to really get in my way? Do I maybe need to consider a course that has fewer uphills, or just really looking at what you want to have a nice, not too tough of a course, but a safe course when you're out there running. So make sure you look ahead of time so that you're not figuring out that there's a giant curb right at the end when you're really tired and going for it. So planning is the key.
I've been dealing with a little bit of anxiety though before these, because I'm not super fit right now. I haven't been doing a ton of workout. Some people go into virtual races really fit because they're coming off those training plans when their races were canceled. But some people are just sort of excited to get moving and to test their limits. But morning of, it's like, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? Why am I going to go run really fast around the block 100 times? How do you tell them mentally to go into those races and, kind of calm themselves so they can actually get a good experience out of it rather than kind of being defeated from it?
I think it's all about progress. And that's the thing, with our training with both the elites and with our in training participants, it's trying to find improvement in each week. And really just, if this is your first one and you're not fit yet, see where you are, see where that base level of fitness is. And don't worry about where you are today, but think of it as a springboard for a month from now, 2 months from now. And there aren't any real races out there right now. So it's a really good opportunity to go out there and just kind of test your limits a little bit. And that's really the thing, is to really be a little more open-minded and not as hard on yourself with your goals right now, and just more seeing where you are. And, like with our elite athletes, Amy's been working them really, really hard with Zoom lifting. So they're tired, they're sore. And so their workouts aren't always going the way they want them to. And we have to just encourage them and let them know that's okay, because we're working through something right now, but when we get through the end of this, it's going to be better. And I think the same thing with virtual races. Just see where you are, and that when you work through some of these things on your own right now, learning to run alone, as was mentioned earlier, once you get into that race where you have thousands of people around you again, it's going to go really well because you're going to get all that extra excitement. So it's just being honest with yourself, being realistic, and just taking it a day at a time.
Yeah. Greg, let's talk about injuries. I hate to bring that up, but it's part of our sport. And this is a time where all of us, all of a sudden, we had this time maybe where we wanted to get out the door and go a little bit further, or maybe some of us had to get home and quickly get ready to take care of all these kids while one spouse goes to work or whatever it is. How do you tell people to look out for injuries, and what do you do during this time when we can't always get in to see our normal massage therapist or chiropractor or PT, that kind of thing?
I think that's been the biggest change for people. For a lot of them, they're home more, right? And so they've removed the commute, they removed some of these sort of time, things that take a lot of time. So they actually have more time to do their work on their body and their prehab and all the things that they've always wanted to do, even take naps. A lot of people are like, wow, I can actually sneak off for a nap. So some of these athletes, their performance is going through the roof just because they're almost living like you pros, right? They're eat, sleep, and so I think there's half the component is that they have an opportunity to maybe take better care of themselves. But the real negative has been people that really need their therapist, their healers, whoever they have is their go-to. And when they are trying to continue to train and they're suddenly not able to get in to see those people, that is kind of stressful. And so we're shifting to a lot of self-care. And so I think they're doing a ton of self-treatment themselves, trying to kind of keep this at bay and hoping as things begin to open up. And of course, every business and therapist are no different. They're coming up with strategies for how can we see people? Yeah. How can we do it in a safe way? How can we be able to help, but yet be safe? And so we're starting to see that open up a little bit. So I think it's been interesting, right? So we see sort of half people have this opportunity. Wow, I can work on myself. I can build my core that I've always wanted to do, or work on my hamstrings or whatever. And then also balance that with, I've got to do a lot more self-care. I've got to become my own therapist until I can get back in to see my therapist. I feel like barbershops, hair salons, and therapists are going to be overwhelmed once they all open up, because everybody is waiting and really looking forward to kind of getting back in. So again, I think it's just pivoting. I think it's your outlook and how you're facing what you have. And maybe if you're sort of on the borderline of an injury, you've got to be smart and feel empowered to adjust your training load down so you can keep that musculoskeletal system happy until you can get back to see that therapist. But I have to say, I'm seeing more people actually getting fitter. I'm seeing them recovering better. They're taking better care of themselves. They're even eating better because they're not going out to restaurants so much, and the availability of those things they used to snack on. So it's kind of interesting, right? People are really starting to see like, wow, if I get 8 hours of sleep, I feel a lot better than getting 5. And it's like, yes, if you would just do this more often, you can see how it can lift. So I'm always sort of let's look on the bright side. Let's take this opportunity to kind of work on things. And soon enough, hopefully, you'll get back in to see your therapist and you'll be carrying a new body, a better prepared body into your future training.
For sure. Well, they say after all of these times in life, depression or whatever it is, war or, any kind of, disaster type thing, the running boom just takes off again. Like every time we boom in the running community. So it is kind of, a nice thing to think about, that we will get more runners because of this. And I'm excited about that. But one thing that, Pete, I think that you have access, you said you are in this sort of like campus type bubble at ZAP, and you guys have some really cool cross training machines there that you can use. And I think a lot of people are having a hard time figuring out how to cross train if they are banged up. And I thought maybe you could touch on that. We can't get in pools. Charlie and I just blew up a 12-foot pool for the kids, and he's trying to figure out how to strap himself in to do some laps in there. I don't know if it'll happen. It's more like a tidal wave when that happens. But how are you recommending for some of your athletes that maybe have been banged up or, will potentially get banged up?
We do have a couple who are banged up right now. So the question is definitely applicable. First and foremost, one that everybody uses. We have a couple of stationary bikes. I think it was the Australian Federation, Greg might remember, who did a study years ago on actually high rotation stationary bike spinning can improve leg speed. Just lower resistance. A spin bike is a great way, obviously, to get some relatively non-impact, non-running exercise in. And then this might sound kind of crazy for a lot of people, but walking. I got knee deep in the weeds a couple of years ago in looking at all the training of the late Paavo Nurmi, who might be the greatest distance runner in history, 9-time gold medalist. And in addition to all his training, he would walk as much as 8 and 9 miles a day, in addition to his running. And obviously he wasn't running super high volume by today's standards, but just time on your feet. It does engage prime movers, going out for a walk. So if you're someone who normally runs 40 miles a week and maybe you're a bit dinged up and you're running half that right now, go out for some walking. As I said, it might sound crazy, but Ryan Warrenberg, our assistant coach, and I, we prescribe walking as part of our pro teams training 5-6 times a week. Go out for a walk, even if it was a 20-mile morning run on a Sunday, go walk for 90 minutes that afternoon. So walking, stationary bike spinning, and then we are very fortunate to have, we have a couple of ellipticos in our gym at ZAP, which is, it's basically an elliptical on a bike-like setting, but a little bit more forward movement, and it's great. It's non-impact, and if anyone out there has access to an elliptico, it's a great resource. As for swimming, we're not getting in the creek or anything. We don't have a pool at ZAP, unfortunately, so I don't know what folks are doing if they don't have their own personal pool.
Well, maybe you need to get a blow-up one. I'll let you know how it goes on in our backyard. Amy, we know that you could hammer the bike when you were injured. You obviously do, I think you say all the time you're doing Orange Theory, which is closed right now. But I want to talk to you a little bit about hydration, because you've always been, and you've talked about it, you need to hydrate when you're training. And you obviously talk to your athletes about that, especially where you guys are right now in Atlanta. So can you talk a little bit about hydrating during this time and really making sure we stick to that plan, because it is going to get hot and humid in a lot of places right now. And if we're new to the sport, it is detrimental if you don't hydrate. But if you are also a veteran like me, who's kind of forgetting to drink during the day, we need to be reminded.
Honestly, we had more athletes after this last workout say, I think I was just dehydrated. And I think part of it is we're inside more now. Like, people aren't going outside to get in their car to go to work. They're only really going outside to run sometimes. So right now they're sitting inside, so they don't feel the need to drink. They don't feel the need to hydrate as much. I think that's causing some issues. People aren't going outside enough to remember that it's hot, because I honestly can't believe it's already June. So part of it is people are forgetting because we're not in our normal routine. But the other thing is people aren't adding the electrolytes that they should be adding. So even if they are drinking it, it's not always doing them, as much good as they should. So it's something that I constantly push all the time, of hydrating. And it's, like I said, I'm finding more and more people are not maintaining their routine of what they've been doing in the past. And I think it's just because we aren't going outside to be reminded how hot it is already.
Yeah. Well, we're going to wrap it up, you guys. We've talked a lot about everything, and I want to quickly have you guys go through and tell us something fun that we can come away with, when we are out on the run, or something good that the run brings you or your athletes, just to keep on inspiring people to get out the door, regardless of what the news has to say or, what's happening in our own lives. This is important for us to keep putting one foot in front of the other. It's a metaphor for life, but it also really helps us. So can you guys just go around quick and leave us with one thought of the run, the fun, whatever it is? Andrew, you want to start?
Sure. I think the most fun thing for me in all of this with running is just getting to explore our neighborhood a little bit more. It sucks because it's really, really hilly, but it's been nice to get kind of, even with our dog walking and our running, we've been out exploring a little more and just getting to see what's right out your door that you might not normally see.
Greg?
I've been stoked to see the new runners. I feel like that's one of the cool things is, when you're going down the bike path and you see somebody and they're just getting started. They're on their journey. This is their window when they're getting started. So it makes you think back to when you started running. And I always just smile because I think, man, your life is about to change. That's pretty cool. So for me, I just come back from the runs when I see people just like, this is all right. These guys are going to be part of our community, and they don't even know yet what it's going to be like to meet up with groups, to go to the running stores, to go to the event. All this that's in front of them, they have no idea yet. So for me personally, I feel a lot of gratitude when I come back, just like, okay, we do have that new wave that's going to come in, and I'm excited for what they're going to experience.
Pete?
I guess I'll project a little Thoreau here. I think that we can all connect with nature. It's running, it's our time to go out. And I know that there's people who live in big cities, but it's the time you can go out in a park or in the forest and just get back to the woods. And so it's great to see people doing that. And I would encourage the people watching today to do just that. Disconnect a little bit and get out and just experience some fresh air.
Love it. Amy?
I mean, Global Running Day is coming up, so hopefully these new runners will see what it's all about. When they see everyone posting about it. But for me personally, I know that I am healthier mentally if I run at least 3 days a week. If I don't, it's not a good thing. Running for me was my job in my life, and I kind of got away from it for a long time, and it's literally, I have to prescribe it to myself at least 3 times a week to stay healthy. And so for people that are struggling with everything going on right now, if you can find kind of that baseline maintenance that you need for physical and mental health, and know that that is just something you have to do, whether you have to sleep in your clothes to get out the door in the morning, whatever it is. But I mean, I know a lot of people that do that too. I haven't yet, but I might have to eventually work to do that. But yeah, for me, it's a mental health thing. 3 days a week for minimum is what I know that I personally need. And everybody's going to be different for that.
I love it. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. Thanks for being the expert coaches that you are, but I think even better, you're all such great human beings, and we love seeing what you all are doing. Everyone can go and find you guys at Atlanta Track Club or McMillan Running or ZAP Running. All of you guys are amazing coaches, but I think the big thing is we all can appreciate the fact what UCAN is doing, bringing the joy again to the sport, but also keeping us hydrated. And I do want to mention the Long Run Challenge. Aim, you might be up for it. It's really fun. Check it out. You can go to UCAN and find out what that's all about. But we want to remind everyone to get after it and keep healthy, keep staying fit out there, and to stay safe. And thank you all for joining us today.
All right. Thank you.